think part of the strength of our community is that we find the women who, like you, know how hard it was to get where you got.
Follow the Leader features dynamic women entrepreneurs in their journeys to becoming a success in business. This podcast is an inspirational space for entrepreneurs, future entrepreneurs, and thought leaders as they share their keys to success. I am Chanel Christoph Davis, the CEO and founding partner of the largest woman and minority-owned sales tax advisory practice in the country, Davis and Harmon, LLC. Welcome to Follow the Leader podcast show. Today we have the guest leader, Julia Pimsleur. She is a scaling coach, a mindset expert, and a best-selling author. She is founder of $1 Million Women, a New York City-based social venture which has helped thousands of women entrepreneurs scale up their businesses. Pimsleur also built the #1 language teaching company for little kids, Lil Pim, into a multi-million-dollar business. Pimsleur is the author of $1 Million Woman, Amazon bestseller, winner of Axiom Business Book Award, in a forthcoming book called Go Big Now, 8 Essential Mindset Practices to Overcome Any Obstacle and Reach Your Goals, about getting and keeping the Go Big mindset. So that's super exciting. That's hitting the markets pretty soon, right?
Well, actually, you know what? There it is. It's out. I think when we sent you that, it wasn't out, but now it's out.
Now it's out. Yay.
Pimsleur
interviews guests and shares Go Big tips on her live show, CEO Check-In, on IGTV and on the $1 Million Mindset podcast. You can sign up for blog posts and download free ebooks at juliapimsleur.com, and we'll put all her links in the show notes. And follow Pimsleur on social media at Julia Pimsleur. So welcome to the show, Julia. We are so excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So the reason why I want to talk to you is for a couple of reasons. You have so many amazing platforms. You've done amazing things in your career as an entrepreneur. But one of the things that I've heard a lot of buzzwords around, is very buzzy right now, is mindset. Everyone is trying to get everyone to focus on mindset, and it kind of leans into self-care a little bit. So tell me a little bit about why you decided to focus on that.
We just all got the biggest global test in mindset that one could possibly have, right? The pandemic. It's interesting because before the pandemic, I think mindset was thought of as kind of a nice to have, right? Oh, you're working on your mindset. That's sweet. That's nice. That's kind of like, in that self-care, wellness sort of soft space. But when the pandemic hit, we suddenly realized that the people who had a powerful or resilient mindset were the ones who were able to keep going, to help other people, to reorganize their businesses if they were entrepreneurs, to stay open, to keep leading their teams if they're leaders. So now I think mindset is taking its proper place, which is, it really is the #1 thing we need to get right, especially, Chanel, if we have big, ambitious goals and dreams, which is what I specialize in. So when you asked, why did I decide to write about mindset? It really grew out of my first book, $1 Million Women, which was telling the story of building my first business, Little Pim, into a multi-million-dollar business. And then I interviewed 7 other women who did the same. And it turns out that one thing everyone had in common was having done work on mindset, believing that having the right mindset to go big was essential. And when I spoke to audiences around the country and in some cases around the world, I asked them, Chanel, what do you think is the hardest part of going big? And this was pre-pandemic. I said, is just to go big, you need to get 3 things right. You need to have the right mindset, the right skill set, and the right network. And in all these rooms, from 100 to 1,000 people, all hands went up for mindset as the hardest thing to get right. So that's when I decided to write my book about what are the essential mindset practices that you can be using if you want to have a powerful mindset and set these big goals and actually reach them, which are 2 different things.
I love that. I really love the fact that mindset is absolutely entering into the conversation where entrepreneurship is concerned, because I attend a lot of conferences for women, a lot of conferences just for entrepreneurs, and we do spend a lot of time on the network aspect of being an entrepreneur. and the skills aspect of being an entrepreneur. That's heavily all of the workshops that I attend, all of the panels that I listen to focus on those two things. You know, how to show up your network, how to make sure you're, you know, in the right rooms, how to make sure you're, you know, present in the right rooms and show up and actually get seen in those rooms. I don't hear anyone talk about mindset. I think
and
that
yet they're so connected, right? Because if you
connected.
don't have the right mindset, you're not going to even go into those rooms, or you're going to go in and you're not going to show up in a way that's going to attract people to you. Funny enough, in our program that you and I chatted about when you came and spoke on my show, $1 Million Women Masterclass, which is our 4-month business program, the very first module we do is on mindset. Because we found if we started just teaching, you know, strategy and distribution and sales and all these hard skills without getting everyone into a really powerful go big mindset kind of place, it doesn't stick, Chanel. It just doesn't stick.
Yeah, and I think that too, women are much more in tune with ourselves. Like internally, we know when things are not feeling right internally, or when our environment is not shored up, or we don't have the right people around us. We are more intuitive in that. I think moreover, we are more intuitive, but it takes work. What are some of the steps you think that women should, I guess, tap into to make sure that they have their mindset in the right place, the proper place to be successful?
Yeah, you know, I spent 15 years attending seminars and workshops and studying with some of the top mindset teachers out there. And ultimately, I felt I was hearing a lot of the same messages. And I wanted to just make it easier for people to access some of these essential practices and teachings that business people need almost more than anyone else, right? There's nothing scarier than starting your own business and being, you know, tossed around by all the waves of the business world, and then add the pandemic in, right? So if anybody needs a good, powerful mindset, it's us. Yeah. So I decided to write the book to really boil it down to what are the 8 essential mindset practices that are the must-haves, that if you study successful leaders and entrepreneurs and politicians, they're all using some version of these 8. You just didn't know it. So I wrote the book as a place to start, whether or not you've done a little reading already or gone to a workshop on, you know, meditation or something. This will give you an amazing foundation, and then you can keep going from there.
That's awesome. So what, you know, I have a lot of people who I follow who are, you know, amazing women entrepreneurs. I count them as my mentors, even though they don't know me. And the ones who are really doing amazing and killing it in business have a real strong workout and exercise and wellness aspect of their lives, and they post about it very, very openly on social media. They're usually triathletes, or they're cyclists, or they're doing something in the mind and body space to kind of fuel them to be able to show up as leaders. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I think that anybody who thinks it's just about the work is really going down the wrong path, right? It's like it all works together. Once you get your mindset to a place where you're valuing yourself, you're giving yourself breaks, you're making sure to do things every day that keep you in that powerful mindset state. And it's not a once and done, right? This is something you can work on your entire life. And I love that people you follow are sharing their practices, because I think we can get into a place where we think, well, those other people, they're just not like me. They're just more motivated or smarter, or they went to better schools. And no, usually if you look pretty carefully, they have just adopted practices, some of them physical and some of them mindset practices, that keep them in this kind of Olympic athlete mindset state. And really, at the end of the day, Chanel, working on your mindset is a lot like working on your physical core strength. People go to the gym, right, and do sit-ups and crunches and do things to have a stronger core. But what are you doing to build your mindset core strength? That's the question I'd like us to be asking ourselves more now. What am I doing to build my mindset core strength?
Yes. So give us a couple. I know there's 8 and I want people to get the book, but give us a couple of tips that you think are key to make sure that you have the proper mindset to be a leader.
Yes. Well, I started with the most essential one to master, which is called Mind the Gap. And Mind the Gap comes out of, if you've ever been in the London Tube and you're standing there waiting for their version of the subway, right? It's going, mind the gap, mind the gap. It says it over and over again. So I adopted that as a way of reminding us that there's always a gap between what happens to you and the meaning you make of it.
Okay.
And before you've done any mindset training, you think, well, no, there's not. Things happen and I react, right? But when you do a little bit of mindset training, you immediately learn that you have a choice and that you can actually create space, even if it's just a tiny bit of space. It can make a huge difference between what happens to you and the meaning you make of it. And once you've mastered that, you can move on and do some of the other, 7 practices that I teach, but that's the number one essential one to master.
That's a good one. Yeah, because if you don't figure out a way to process what happens to you every day in business, because every day in business is an epic adventure. Some weeks more than others. But if you don't take the time to process things that's happening to you or things that are said to you in business, you can create a narrative that's on the loop, that's really not serving you.
Well, and here's the thing. I think we all think, oh gosh, I think all these negative thoughts, it must just be me. But in my research for the book, I found out that we have 6,000 thoughts a day. And guess what percentage of them are negative? What percentage do you think are negative, Chanel?
80%.
You're about right. Yeah, like 70, 80% of our thoughts are negative, which is crazy if you think about it, that we're constantly going down this negative path, really for no reason, right? And so, I use this every day still. I was interviewed by a reporter for a local news show a couple of weeks ago, and she said it's going to run on Monday. Well, Monday came and went and it didn't run, so my brain goes to, oh, did I screw it up? Was the interview not good? Did she change her mind? Right? And you have to just go, no, wait, mind the gap. You don't know that that's the meaning. Let's choose a different meaning, right? And I wrote to her and she said, oh yeah, the week got crazy. We're going to run it next week. But your brain just goes there all by itself.
That's good. That's really good. And I think also, I've heard people say also that just because you think it doesn't mean that it's true, right? Sometimes the feelings and how you feel can be do you the most disservice. You need to find the facts before you create a whole separate narrative for yourself.
Well, that leads to the second most important mindset teaching. So that's picking that up. So I always recommend, if you're just going to try to master one mindset practice, other than mind the gap, because you can use mind the gap all day long, every day in your personal life, in your professional life. But the other one is to do what I call bust limiting beliefs. So people might have heard the term limiting beliefs, but I'll just define it in case they haven't heard it. It just means a belief you have about yourself that is sabotaging you or keeping you small. And sometimes people don't know they have them. When they say to me, Julia, how do I find my limiting beliefs? I say, well, look around your life and look at what you don't have, or what you wish you have, but you somehow haven't been able to attract it, whether it's more money, a better job, maybe it's in your love life, maybe it's a relationship with your child. There's almost always a limiting belief behind that. Just as the things you have in your life that are working great, let's say you're in a fabulous relationship, or you're making tons of money, you're really happy with where your career is at, you have an empowering belief behind that. There's just 2 kinds of beliefs, limiting and empowering. So once we find these limiting beliefs, and this is kind of an inventory we need to do on a regular basis to kind of take a flashlight and shine it on these beliefs, right? And just say, hey, what's going on here? Is this belief still serving me? Like, let's say you grew up with the notion that people who make money are greedy. Like, that's what your parents said at the dinner table. You always heard them talking about, oh yeah, greedy Uncle Jack, right? He's a millionaire and he's such a jerk. That's why we never invite him to Thanksgiving, right? And suddenly you've got this whole limiting belief going that if you make money, you're a jerk. If you make money, you go into the category of the bad people and you don't have good values. You can't possibly be doing anything to contribute to the world.
And you won't be invited to Thanksgiving, which is just tragic.
Right. It's like, for that alone, you're not going to try to make money. But then the fact is, while that might have served you for a little while, because maybe it helped you integrate better with your family or pursue something very values driven, you might get to a place in your life where that's not serving you anymore. If you're trying to take your company from 100,000 to 800,000, not wanting to make money, that could get in your way, right? So that's a big problem. So we teach in the book, and I was taught by my masters, and I teach it in the book, how to find those limiting beliefs and then bust right through them and replace them with more empowering beliefs that'll serve you better for reaching your goals.
That's good, Julia. That's worth a lot just by itself for the book. That's really good.
It made a huge difference in my life. These are all things that I used and teach to my coaching clients. So that's where I drew them from.
Wonderful. So I want to talk a little bit about your social venture, Million Dollar Women. Tell me about that. That sounds fascinating. I know a little bit about it, so I want you to share with the audience.
I would love to. So, Million Dollar Women is a social venture where we're helping 1 million women get to 1 million in revenues. And we're so excited about this because in our community, we talk a lot about how money is freedom. Money is the ability to marry someone you want to marry or not marry someone, or get divorced, or move to another town, or send your kids to the schools you want to send them to, or start a nonprofit and make a big impact. So we're focused on money as a means to making an impact. And we've found that a lot of women are smart and driven and hardworking, but they just haven't learned the business skills to take their businesses big. So in our community, we have a 4-month business program where we invite women in. They take 8 different business modules that we teach them. We give them coaching, mentorship, access to financial mentors, and help them completely transform their businesses so that typically they double their revenues right away and get on that path to making 1 million.
That's phenomenal. So that's really that network aspect of it, right? And I think that women who start businesses, and we've had an explosion over the past year in 2020, so many women started businesses, that finding your network is really one of the hardest parts. I feel it's very, very difficult to find the right network.
Well, and also we find that women who are in this big ambitious mode, right? If I don't want to just have like a little cute side hustle, like I want to have a business that's going to pay for my life, right? And maybe I could even pass on to my children one day. That's what we call a high growth woman entrepreneur. And high growth women entrepreneurs want to hang out with other high growth women entrepreneurs, right? You might have other friends who have a business that, they want to do it just like while the kids are at school, and great, good for them. I'm a feminist. To me, that means women should have so many choices. And if the choice is, I want to keep this business small, great. But if you want to go big, you got to hang out with other people going big, right? And that's what our community is all about. Right now, fewer than 3% of women entrepreneurs ever get to 1 million in revenues. And for women of color, it's fewer than 1%.
1%. Yep. I know so well. Absolutely.
I know you do. We talked about this a lot. And that's why we're so committed to helping more women get there so that we can see this changed in our lifetime.
So how you just wrapped up a conference. How did it go?
Oh, fantastic. Well, we had Brittany speaking. How could it not be fantastic?
Yes. Brittany Stovall spoke at the conference. She's a mutual friend of ours and really, really cool chick.
She's fantastic. She was one of our keynotes. We had 500 attendees from all over the country. And we found that women were just so eager to hear from successful women entrepreneurs, including women of color like Brittany. We are about 25% women of color in our community. We also have a $1 Million Women Fund, which provides scholarships for women of color entrepreneurs. So we love having all this diversity in our community, and found that people were really hungry to hear from women who've made it. Not just women of color, but yes, also women of color. I know that for me, I had a lot of male mentors, and I'm so grateful to them, but I always wished I could talk to someone who just had a little bit more of my life experience, right? Someone who was also a mom, maybe. I have 2 boys who are 13 and 16. And when I was growing my first business, they were at home and I was juggling, the kids and the school and business. And my mentors really didn't understand that. So I'm a big believer in helping people to connect with mentors who've shared their life experience. And that's one of the things we do in our community as well, is get mentors connected with women who are on that journey.
That's amazing. So what is on the horizon for Julia and all of your many enterprises for this upcoming, the rest of the year in 2022? I'm really looking forward to 2022. I think that's going to be our fabulous roaring 20s. That's my prediction.
I love it. Well, you know what? I'm not waiting until 2022 to do all my fun stuff. We're only halfway through 2021.
Good. That's awesome.
I hear you. Yeah, no, it does feel like 2020 was a bit of a press pause, right, on our dreams. And now we got to dust off those dreams from pre-pandemic and get going again. And I'm hearing from
I felt like it was a hard reset. It was like a reset, a time for us to just reevaluate everything.
That's a good point, right? Because if you have to stop doing business and stay home, you got a lot of time to think. And it's true, a lot of women during that time realized, hey, my values are not aligned with my employer. Maybe I'm going to either get a different job or go start my own business. Like you were saying, there's been a big rise in entrepreneurship among women. I don't know if you know, but over the last 2 decades, women have started twice as many businesses as men.
Yes, yes. I mean, like it's phenomenal. And it really in organizations where I belong, I'm on the board for Women's Business Council or Executive National Council. I'm on the board for them nationally and locally. And we have seen an influx of new applications, which is really, really beautiful to see.
It's amazing. And I hope that next step will happen too, that they'll take those businesses beyond, let's say, the $100,000 mark, because 90% of women-owned small businesses are making under $100,000 and have 0 employees, which means women have created a job for themselves, but it's a job that has no benefits, no vacations, right? No security. And usually they get a little burned out after doing that for a couple of years. So I'm really passionate about helping women scale up. And to your question of what's next, we've decided to create our first ever $1 Million Women Community membership site. We are so excited about this. So now we'll be able to have thousands of women come into our community, learn from our business curriculum, get connected with mentors, be in community with other high growth women who also want to have a big impact. And that's a huge initiative, along with, of course, the work around Go Big Now and helping more people get that powerful Go Big mindset.
Well, that's exactly why I wanted you to be on the show, because I do think that it's important for women to know that if their dream is to have an enterprise, or not consider enterprise a business where you're employed, you're duplicating yourself. You're not just self-employed, but you actually have employees. Many women start businesses with that dream. So I wanted to introduce them to you and to your network, to let them know that there are resources out there to help you along the way and kind of point you in the right direction, because it's so much information out there. It's like information soup with resources.
Oh, completely. We hear from so many women that have watched all the webinars, they've read all the books. Now they would actually like someone to tell them, like, okay, how do I do this?
It's exhausting. So I think your platform is really a great service to women. I think it's amazing. That's why I wanted to have you on. So I think that's
Chanel, and we're so grateful to you, because I know you're getting started as a mentor. Brittany is a mentor. I think part of the strength of our community is that we find the women who, like you, know how hard it was to get where you got and want to pay it forward. And so we have 30 entrepreneurs who built successful multi-million-dollar businesses, mentoring on a regular basis, trying to help the next generation to get there faster than they did. And when I say next generation, that doesn't mean you have to be young. We're seeing a huge influx of women in their 40s and 50s, even some 60s, right? Starting new businesses. Maybe they spent 20 years in corporate America. And they're like, you know what, if I'm going to work this hard and produce these kind of results, I'm going to do it for me.
Absolutely.
We love having them in our community too. So again, thank you for mentoring.
Oh, I'm so excited to be involved. And I think that's what makes your community unique. You're learning from women who've already gotten to the point where if they scale their business, they've accomplished a level of success. So now you're learning from people who've already done it. So hopefully we can make the road a little bit easier for you.
Well, I know you do, because I often hear from our graduates, one of the best things was the conversation with their mentor. You'd be surprised, Chanel, how few women have ever met someone who's grown a business over $1 million. And when I say someone, I mean another woman, whether, no matter what race. They've met men, but most of the women, we have women from all over the country coming into our program. And I always ask, do you know anyone who's built a multi-million-dollar business? And fewer than 2% say yes to that. So just by getting on that call, it's an incredible gift you're giving them.
I mean, if less than 2% of women of color have businesses over $1 million. So clearly we're not everywhere you turn around. It's like we're hard to find.
And then add in geography, right? You're in Texas, so there's a big entrepreneurial community there. I'm in New York, huge entrepreneurial community, but we have women calling us from South Dakota,
amazing,
deep Washington State, right there. It's very hard there to access that high growth women's community. The other thing I wanted to share, going back to Go Big Now, is you started by saying, hey, mindset is a buzzword. We're hearing it everywhere, but I really think a lot of people don't know exactly what it means or what they should be working on. So I came up with this definition I wanted to share and leave your listeners with, which is a Go Big mindset is a set of beliefs that allows you to stay positive, overcome any obstacle, and reach your goals. That's the Go Big mindset.
And that stay positive part is the part that's the most challenging.
There are days you've got to have all the practices, right? There are days I got to write in the gratitude journal. I got to call my friend. I got to mind the gap, right? You use all these too, right? It's not like, okay, once your business is making over $1 million, you got no problems anymore.
No, I have a gratitude journal. I exercise every day. That helps me clear my mind. I also am a big believer in vitamin D. Some days I just need the sun because we have a tendency, especially during quarantine, to just kind of be squirreled away in our home. So some days I just need some rays on my face.
Oh, completely. Get out and get moving, right? That can really shift your mindset.
Move my body. All those things help me. And also another thing that I realized that has helped me over the quarantine is if something happens that is, upsetting, because you have days when things upset you, I put it on the shelf. I literally put it on the shelf. I'm not gonna address it today. I may not even address it tomorrow. Give me some space and time to distance myself from the event. And maybe I'll pick this back up next week when I've had clarity, time to think about it, time to pray about it. Because typically if I respond to it the day of, it's not gonna serve me or serve the person I'm talking to very well.
That shows a lot of control and also emotional intelligence. And, since your podcast is all about leadership, I would hate to not address emotional intelligence, right? Because I think that's so critical to being a good leader, is knowing, hey, I'm triggered right now. Or like, if I respond to this right now, it's not going to be coming from my most, leaderly place.
Exactly.
So I really applaud that you do that.
Yes, absolutely. So I am so excited for 20. I'm gonna still say 2022 is gonna be the beginning of the roaring 20s. And I hope that in 2022, Julia, I'm gonna be live and in person and able to give you a hug at one of your.
I would love that. We got to get you to New York, or I'll come back to Texas. Either
yes,
one.
I want to come to New York for one of the $1 Million Women events. That's one of my goals.
That. Yeah, I'm extending the invitation right now. So we'll get out the red carpet for you, Chanel.
Awesome.
And all your mentees will be there waiting for you.
Yes, I get to meet my mentees, and there's nothing better than that. I mean, who can ask for anything better?
And I wanted to ask you, what is your definition of a leader? I'm curious. You've been doing this podcast. You've interviewed all these amazing women. How do you define what a leader is?
I think that a good leader is a person who's really good at building well-functioning teams. I think that it's a person who's able to see in their team members individually their skill sets, and also see things that in them that they need to improve upon, and kind of, steer them into the path where they can be best used and served. I think sometimes that, your team members may have in mind for themselves, a certain goal, and you have to be the person to say, try this, because you can see something maybe they can't see. So, but I think that, if you have high functioning, intelligent, dedicated, smart people on your team, that you can find a place for everyone if you're building an enterprise. I think that what's most important for my employees and my staff is that I lead from a place of love. Oftentimes I put them before my own personal needs. I put them first, and I want to be an environment where we're all family and happy to be there. I never want to have a group of people together that don't want to be in this particular space. So that's my goal, is always trying
to be an amazing leader, because you're empathetic. No, you're empathetic. You want them to succeed and thrive. It sounds like you invest a lot in your team and making sure they're growing as people, not just as team members either.
I do. It's important to me, because I think when I go to work every day, I want to be around people who I want to be around. So
you're here. What's the point otherwise? I always say the business has to work for you, not you for the business, right? Absolutely. If you have people whose energy is not good energy, or they're just making you crazy, no, this is your business. Just change it.
And that's that culture piece, the piece of building a culture where, everyone is contributing to the whole. Everyone is a part of this whole, putting this puzzle together. So that's really my goal.
I love that. Well, I hope we'll get to have lots more conversations about leadership, mindset, how to get more women through that $1 million eye of the needle, right? Because we want more women in here with us. It's more fun when there are more people.
Absolutely. I say that all the time. I don't want to be here by myself. I want to have a whole bunch of girlfriends with me. And I can't wait to read your book. I need it for myself. Look, on some days I'm going to have highlighted pages. Like Julia said,
you can call me if you want a little, extra coaching, but I don't think you're going to need it. I think you've done a lot of this stuff already. We do, however, have a 10-page free workbook with 20 exercises to do that you download for free on my website. Goes with the book. It's a companion piece. So for anybody out there who, like me, is a little geeky, likes to have the workbook and get out your favorite pen, and this is a great book to really dive deep and think about, okay, what do I want out of the next 1 year, 5 year, 10 years of my life? What kind of mark do I want to make? What's going to bring me the most joy? Set that go big goal. That's what we call it in the book, a go big goal. And then figure out how you're going to get there and not get thrown off track when things go wrong, right? Because that's really where people lose it, Chanel, right? It's not about it. The easy part is deciding to go for it, right? You know that Nike slogan? What's the Nike slogan? Everybody knows the Nike slogan.
Just do it.
Just do it, right? So I love just do it, right? That's a great rallying cry. But the truth is, anybody who's reached success will tell you that getting off go is about 10% of success, right? It's the other 90%. That's the hard part. Where what happens the first time you fall on your face? What happens the first time you make a terrible decision and you just lost $50,000? What happens when your partner embezzles from you? What happens when your top employee quits, right? It's that other 90% that requires a powerful mindset and that to date has not really been taught. So that's the conversation I'm excited to have over the next few years, is help people get those practical skills so that they can stay on track and reach their goals no matter what life throws at you, even a pandemic.
That's amazing. So I'm definitely going to put a link to the workbook as well in the show notes so everyone can have access to it.
Awesome.
So thank you, Julia. Thank you for being a woman of service, for being a leader, and to really create a platform for us as leaders to give back to women in business. It's just incredible. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chanel. I'm so excited to have you in our community as a mentor, and I want to party with you in the Roaring 20s. So let me know when that's starting. I'm there.
It's good. It's going to be good. I promise.
I'm in. Yeah, thank you for having me on. This was so much fun, and I love everything you're doing to help women become even better leaders than they already are. Because let's face it, if you're listening, you're a leader. I'm a big believer that you learn to lead by leading, right? And listening to podcasts about leadership, that's part of being a leader. So everybody listening is a leader in my eyes, no matter where they sit in their organization.
Incredible. Thank you, Julia.